Okay, so next we're looking at animal studies of attachment. Now, the animal studies are named on the spec. So Lorenz and Harlow are both named on the specification. So you need to know what each researcher did and what animal they did their research on. So there's a separate study for each researcher. And for each of the studies, you need to know the aim, so what the researcher wanted to find out, the procedure, so explicitly what they did, and the findings, so what they found out. Now, there is more detail on these studies than on this PowerPoint, and it's worth going and having a bit of an extra read, having a look on Caboodle to see what else is there. You just need to make sure that these make sense. But the bare minimum, you need to know which animal was studied for each of these. But remember, Lorenz and Harlow are named on the spec, so this is something that's asked about in most exams, even if it's just a 1-mark question. You can be asked a 16-mark question on this. You can just be asked a 1-mark question. There's no way to work it out, but you just need to make sure that you've got enough notes that you can do a 16-mark question on this if you need to. Now, the researchers are what we call ethologists. So they are biologists who look at animal behaviours. The first guy that we're going to look at is Konrad Lorenz. You don't need to remember his first name, but obviously you need to know his second name. Lorenz was interested in attachment and how animals attach to their mothers. Now, like what we've looked at before with humans, he looked at it from an adaptive point of view. So why it's useful for survival for young animals to attach to their mothers. Now, Lorenz looked at a concept called imprinting, and Lorenz did this in experiments with geese. So Lorenz is looking at geese or grey-lag geese, and he's looking at imprinting. So imprinting is a concept in animals, not in humans, where a baby animal will attach to the first moving object that it sees. So, for example, with a goose, once a gosling hatches, it will attach to the first moving object it sees, because that moving object is normally its mother, and it's adaptive for the gosling to attach to its mother. So that's what Lorenz is looking at, imprinting. It's really important to remember that humans do not imprint, but Lorenz is looking at geese, and he's setting up 2 conditions. So in the second condition, the geese were just kind of left as normal, and the mother goose was the first moving object the chicks saw after they hatched. But in the first condition, Lorenz himself was the first moving object seen by the goslings, by the chicks, when they hatched. And what he found was that the chicks that saw him first followed him around. They imprinted on him. They formed an initial attachment with Lorenz. And the chicks that saw their mother first followed her around first. Lorenz also suggested, but this is anecdotal evidence, so it doesn't have any kind of statistical basis, that when the geese were adults, they performed mating displays towards him and not towards other geese, whereas the geese in the second group performed the mating rituals to other geese. But that's just anecdotal evidence. There's no statistical basis for that. Lorenz found that the geese seemed to have a critical period. So this was an important few hours in which they could imprint. And if that didn't happen in this time period, then imprinting would not happen. So this is a critical period. Now, this is a concept that exists in humans. Babies have a critical period for attachment, and it links to some work by Bowlby. So critical periods happen in animals and humans, but remember, imprinting is only in animals. It does not occur in humans. Also, it's really, really important, because for some reason, students tend to forget that Lorenz looked at geese, and instead they like to substitute it for a preferred bird of theirs, obviously the duck. Lorenz did not investigate ducks, he investigated geese. Please don't get your birds mixed up. In terms of evaluating Lorenz, there are some good notes in the textbook, but some of Lorenz's conclusions have been questioned. There's a good study by Guiton that found that chickens imprinted on yellow washing up gloves and would try to mate with them, so that supports Lorenz's work. You can also suggest that it lacks any kind of generalization to humans if Lorenz is just looking at imprinting in geese or in animals. But there is some more there are some more notes on evaluating Lorenz on page 75 of your textbook. The critical period has also been questioned. There's also been some replications of Lorenz's research that have had varying degrees of success. So it's worth looking into that and making sure, I would say for Lorenz, you've got 2 clear AO3 points that refer to what Lorenz did. There's a video linked into this PowerPoint that will be on the classroom that you can watch to watch a bit more of Lorenz's work. So that's up for you to watch as well. We're not watching now. Now, that's the first research. The second research is by a man called Harry Harlow. And Harry Harlow is looking at attachment in monkeys. Now, it's a specific type of small monkey called a rhesus monkey, but you just need to refer to it as monkeys. Just to say that some people find Harlow's research a bit upsetting. It's worth just bearing that in mind. Be cautious if you're watching any clips on Harlow. If you're watching any videos of his work, there's a video linked into this PowerPoint later on. Do not watch it if you're easily upset or you find baby monkeys quite cute. People tend to find this quite upsetting. We find it quite upsetting because of the similarities between baby monkeys and human babies. But it's just a word of warning. So what Harlow is looking at is whether the monkeys attach due to comfort or whether they attach due to food. So what Harlow did is designed an experiment where a monkey would either receive comfort. So in the picture on the screen, it's the monkey on the right, which is kind of a fluffy monkey. And on the left is a wire monkey, which provides food. So Harlow wanted to see what was more important for a baby monkey, whether it was comfort or whether it was food. The contact comfort is about wanting to form an attachment to be comforted. Research suggested that this was not that important, that monkeys should attach due to being fed because that's more adaptive. So what Harlow did was he measured the amount of time that the monkey spent with the cloth mother or the kind of cuddly mother and measured the amount of time that the monkey spent with the wire mother. And what he found was they tended to spend about 23 out of 24 hours a day with this mother, with this contact comfort mother, and only went to the other mother when they wanted to be fed. The repercussions of this attachment, Harlow found, was that the monkeys didn't socialize, they didn't form a real attachment. There were long-lasting effects on the monkeys, whereby they were what he classified as socially abnormal, so they couldn't interact with other monkeys, that they didn't show normal mating behavior, and they couldn't care for their own children if they had their own children afterwards. So there were some long-term implications for these monkeys. However, this again was within a critical period. So there's some more notes on page 74 of your textbook to kind of talk you through what Harlow did. There is a video linked from here. Again, do not watch it if you're going to be easily upset, because the monkeys do get quite upset. There's obviously an ethical issue here. It does demonstrate monkeys being upset in the cages. So there is a video there if you would like to watch a bit more as to what Harlow did. And that's Harry Harlow there with the monkey and one of the cloth mothers. So you've got this mother love film as well that you can watch on YouTube. In terms of evaluating Harlow, it's really influential work. It's actually was extrapolated and generalized to humans, which is important, and it has important applications in terms of childcare and in terms of social work. The main AO3 criticism for Harlow is ethics. and it's to do with his treatment of the monkeys. Harlow's labs were shut down, so the ethical implications, it's your biggest AO3 point, and it's the first one you should really use when you look at Harlow. And again, there's more notes on page 75 of your textbook.